The Kelpie of Loch Garve, Loch Garve, Ross-shire, 1884. Ross-shire, 1884. By the second week of January, the ice on Loch Garve is thick enough to bear a horse and cart. The children of Garve village walk out on it to prove it, all except one corner. At the eastern end of the loch, close under the birches, there is a patch of open water perhaps 20 feet across. It steams in the frost like a pot kept just off the boil. It has not frozen that winter. It has not frozen any winter that any man in Garve can remember, and there are men in Garve that winter who can remember the year of the great flood. The crofters call it the warm place. They do not skate near it. They do not cut ice near it. They do not water their beasts there, not even in summer, and no one will tell a stranger why. On the 16th of January, a young engineer of the Dingwall and Skye Railway, a Mr. Alexander Roy, sits in the inn at Garve and asks the question out loud. Why does that corner never freeze? He writes about it afterwards in a letter that survives him. He writes that the room did not answer. He writes that an old carter named Murdo Bain looked at him for a long moment, then looked at the fire and said only this: "There is a hearth under it, and a woman keeping it lit." The story behind that answer was set down years later by the minister of Contin parish, who had it from his father, and he from the men who lived through it. It begins a generation earlier, on a soft grey morning, when a young crofter's wife from the east end of the loch went down to the shore for water and did not come back. They found her pail standing upright on the shingle, still empty. They found the prints of a horse in the wet ground all around it, a big horse, unshod, that no man in the strath owned. The prince went down to the waterline. They did not come out again. Her husband waded the shallows until his legs went dead under him. The men of Garve dragged the loch for 9 days with ropes and irons, and the ropes came up heavy with weed and nothing else. And on the 10th day the minister told them to stop, and they stopped. Some months after that, a mason from Strathpeffer, a quiet man named Donald Sim, was stopped on the Loch Road at dusk by a tall, dark stranger leading a black horse. What happened to him that night he told exactly once, years on, and never again. He said the loch opened for them the way a door opens. He said there was a house down there, dry as any house in the strath, and a woman in it who would not look at him, her hands in her lap in the cold. He was put to work. He built a hearth and a chimney through the night, good stone, well set, so that the woman of that house would not freeze. At first light he was set back on the shore, with his creel filled with fish, silver trout, still moving. His boots were dry, his hands smelled of peat smoke for a month. The minister's account uses the old word for the thing that stopped Donald Sim on the road. It calls it the Kelpie of Loch Garve. It writes the word once and then does not write it again, as if the ink itself were unlucky. And it records this as plain fact. From that winter forward, the east corner of Loch Garve has never taken ice. The old folk said the hearth was burning under it still, kept lit so that she would not feel the cold. Whatever was kind in that thought, no one in Garve ever found any comfort in it. All of that is old. What happened in 1884 is not. In the last week of that January, the frost deepens until the birch twigs snap like glass. Kirsty McRae, 19 years old, the gamekeeper's daughter, walks home at dusk from the manse along the Loch Road, carrying a parcel of mending and a small lantern. Widow Munro, whose door faces the road, sees her pass. The widow will repeat what she saw for the rest of her life, always in the same words. She saw the girl on the road, and below the road on the shingle a horse. A black horse, saddled and bridled, standing quite still, the way a horse stands when it has been waiting. Its flank shone wet in the last of the light. No rain had fallen in 11 days. The widow called out. The wind took her voice. She stepped inside for her shawl only a moment, and when she came out the road was empty, and the shore was empty. And far down at the east corner, the warm water was steaming harder than she had ever seen it, rolling like a washpot. There is fresh snow on the shingle the next morning, a thin, dry fall, and the prints in it are very clear. The girl's boot prints leave the road and cross the shingle, small and even and unhurried. Beside them, the prints of a great unshod horse. 10 feet from the waterline, the boot prints stop. The horse's prints go on, deeper now, pressed down hard as if under weight, straight into the loch. The blacksmith, John Noble, is fetched to look, because it is the blacksmith who says the thing no one else will. The hoof prints are back to front. The toe of every print points up the bank, toward the road, yet the trail runs the other way, down into the water. Whatever made them walked into Loch Garve with its feet turned the wrong way round. They dragged the loch, of course, men in 3 boats, 4 days, wet rope freezing to their gloves. The men working nearest the east corner said the rope came up warm to the hand there, warm as milk, and they stopped dragging at that place, and nobody told them to begin again. They found her lantern in the shallows, glass unbroken, and the parcel of mending dry above the tide line, folded, set on a stone. Set, the widow always said, not dropped. The parish register at Contin records the death of Kirsty McRae in February 1884. Drowned, it says, body not recovered. Beneath it, in the same hand but smaller, a line the session clerk was never asked to explain. Not sought after the 3rd day. Loch Garve still keeps its custom, and Garve still keeps its own. No beast is watered at the east end. Carters crossing the old bridge walk at the horse's head with a hand through the bridle. And in a hard January you can still stand on the ice, as the children of the village did, and look east to the birches and see the whole white loch broken by one black circle of water, breathing steam into the frost. The guidebooks call it a spring. The old men of Garve call it what the carter called it, a hearth with a woman keeping it lit, and some of them, quietly, call it the Kelpie's chimney, and they will tell you the fire has never once been let go out, because the house beneath the loch is never short of company. So mind this, if you are ever tired on that road at dusk. If a dark horse stands saddled and patient at the water's edge, wet where no rain has fallen, walk on, for it was not sent to carry you home. If a dark horse stands saddled and patient at the water's edge, wet where no rain has fallen, walk on, for it was not sent to carry you home. The Each-Uisge of Loch Beiste, Wester Ross, 1850. Wester Ross, 1850. On the moor above Melon Charles, half a mile from the sea, there is a loch so small a man can walk round it, between one shower of rain and the next. The water is brown as steeped peat. No birds sing over it. And on the estate maps drawn in that very decade, in a clerk's careful hand, it already carries the only name the people have ever given it. Loch Beiste, the Loch of the Beast. What follows is not a fireside invention. It sits in the ledgers of the Gruinar estate. It sits in accounts of money spent and money demanded back. It survives in the record of a landlord's fury, and in the long silence of the families who were made to pay for it. The facts are plain. In the middle years of the 19th century, a rich man went to war with this loch. The loch won. It begins on a spring evening with 2 respectable men in a small boat. Sandy MacLeod and Murdo Mackenzie are elders of the Free Church at Melon Charles. Sober men, careful men, men whose word carries weight at communion and at market. They are crossing the loch when the water swells beneath them. Not a wave. A rising. Something turns below the boat, slow and enormous, and a long dark back breaks the surface not 20 yards off, glistening, and slides under again without a sound. The boat rocks once. The 2 elders row for the shore, and they do not speak until their boots are on the heather. They tell the minister that same night. The entry in the parish record is a single line. A great disturbance of the water witnessed by 2 elders of good character. The account written down years later adds that the minister's hand shook as he made it. Within the week, no one in the township will cross the moor path after dusk, because the old people know what lives in a loch that carries that name. And they know it is not a story. Ask the grandmothers of Altbie, with the door shut and the fire low, and they will tell you what the thing is. It wears the shape of a horse, a fine horse. Sleek as a seal, quiet as fog, standing at the waterline where no horse has any business standing. It waits to be admired. It waits to be touched. And its skin holds. Not the way glue holds, the way a decision holds. The hand that touches it stops belonging to you. The old people give the thing its true name only in daylight and quietly. Each-Uisge. The water horse, worse by far than any Kelpie of the rivers, they say, for a river spirit may tire of you and let you go. This one has never once let go of anything, and they will tell you what happened out at Slagan in their own grandmother's time. 7 children went up the moor on a summer morning to cut rushes. They found a grey pony grazing by the water, saddled by no one, owned by no one, patient as stone. One by one the children climbed onto its back, and the back grew longer to seat each of them, which is a thing that backs do not do. The 7th, a boy, hung back. He laid a single finger on the creature's neck, no more than that. The pony turned its head to look at him, and its eyes were wrong, and his finger would not come away. The boy had his rush knife in his other hand. He was the only one who came home. He came home short a finger, and he never went near water again, not even to cross a burn. At first light, the township walked the shore. Of the 6 children, one thing was found. It lay on the stones at the north end, washed clean by the water. A liver, nothing else ever came ashore. The old people say the beast has no use for that one part, and leaves it the way a man leaves a rind. That was all the burying their mothers ever got to do. So when 2 elders of the church see the water rise in 1850, the fear that spreads is an old fear with deep roots, and this time it reaches the ears of the landlord. His name is Merrick Bankers, a merchant out of Liverpool, owner of the Gruinard estate, a man of coal and iron and ledgers. He does not believe in beasts, but he believes in rent, and frightened tenants make poor tenants. So Mr. Banks makes a decision no laird in Scotland had made before him. He will not calm the loch, he will execute it. His campaign is in the estate papers, and you may check it. First, he sends men with picks to cut a channel from the loch toward the sea, to bleed it dry and leave whatever lives there flapping in the mud. The moor drinks everything the channel carries and gives it straight back. So Banks sends for a pump, a great engine, hauled up the coast road at ruinous cost, set wheezing on the bank week after week, month after month. Witnesses say you could hear it from Lade. The loch does not drop so much as a hand's width. It is fed from below, the old men mutter. It is fed from somewhere that does not empty. Then comes the sounding. Bankies has the loch measured from a boat, and here the record turns strange, because the loch proves shallow. Barely a fathom, most of it. A man could wade it. All that fear over a puddle, except at the south end, where the line goes down and keeps going down into a single black hole in the peat that swallows every fathom of rope they feed it. That is where the laird aims his last blow. On his written order, the men row out over that hole and tip in 14 barrels of quicklime, barrel after barrel, to burn whatever waits at the bottom. The water hisses. It turns a blind milky white, like an eye with the sight gone out of it. Then it goes still. The men at the oars wait a long time. Nothing surfaces. One of them, years on, would say only that the smell was wrong, and that he watched the white water until dark, and was glad he could not see into it. Nothing ever came up. No carcass, no bones, no hide. And then Mr. Banks did the thing the district never forgave. He billed his tenants. The pump, the labour, the lime, the whole cost of his war entered against the crofts and added to the rents. The people of Mellon Charles paid for the hunting of the beast, whether they believed in it or not. They paid for years. Most of them believed. The loch refilled within the season, brown and quiet, as though none of it had happened. And the tellings did not stop. A horse at the waterline at dusk, where no crofter keeps a horse. A slow swell on windless days. To this day, there are folk in Altbay who will not water a pony there, and who kept their children off that moor path long after anyone could say exactly why. Stand on the shore now and the loch looks like nothing at all. Shallow, weedy, harmless. Then you notice that you do not want to put your hand in it. The Each-Uisge was never drained and never burned, because you cannot pump out what is patient, and lime will not burn a thing already colder than the water it sleeps in. The loch keeps its name, and the name keeps its tense. Loch na Beiste. The loch of the beast is, not was. If ever you find a fine horse waiting alone by dark water, With no owner in sight and a back long enough for 7, keep your hands at your sides and walk on, for its skin remembers, and it is still owed 6. The Fideal of Loch na Fideil, Loch na Fideil, near Gairloch, Wester Ross, 1793. Gairloch parish, Wester Ross, June 1793. The lamb comes out of the water on the end of a crook, and Murdo Mackenzie, shepherd, stands a long time looking at it. Drowned lambs are nothing new in the hill country. Sheep are foolish near water. But the wool of this one is plaited. Green weed runs through the fleece in neat, even rows, over and under, the way a patient woman braids a daughter's hair. Murdo counts 11 crossings before his hands begin to shake. He does not tell his wife what he has found. He tells the minister. The loch has a name the incomers never learn to say. It lies in a fold of the hills south of Gairloch, off the drove road toward Loch Mari, a dark little water fringed with bogbean and rush. Small, you could walk its shore in half an hour. There are trout in it that no one catches because no line has gone into that water in living memory, and no boat has ever floated on it at all. The account of that summer was set down years later by Alexander Urquhart, schoolmaster at Puleway, who took the testimony of the witnesses while most of them still lived. His manuscript survives. The parish record survives too, and it is the parish record that gives us the dates. Between the 9th of June and the 2nd of August 1793, 3 entries. A lamb is nothing, the other 2 are not. The dry weather comes in July. The burns shrink to a trickle, and the drovers rest their cattle in the fold of the hills. A boy travelling with them, 12 years old, goes down to the little loch in the heat of the afternoon to swim. His name is not in the record. What is in the record is what the drovers swore, that the boy was 10 yards out in calm water when he stopped swimming and began to turn. Slowly, like a leaf spinning on a stream, they said, though there is no stream in that loch and no current, and there was no wind that day at all. He was screaming that something had his ankles, soft, he said, not teeth, soft like wet wool, like hair winding higher. The oldest drover ran in up to his chest and caught the boy's wrist, and he swore before the minister afterward, swore it on the book, that pulling that child ashore was like hauling a creel through a bed of weed, except that the weed pulled back. The boy lived. On his ankles and his shins, rising past the knee, were fine red lines in a crossing pattern. Braided welts. They took weeks to fade. The old women of the township did not need the minister to tell them what lived there. Their grandmothers had told them, and their grandmothers before that. A thing that lies just under the skin of the water, spread thin as scum on milk. Long hair, green as August weed, drifting where the wind does not go. A shape that is very nearly a woman, when the light is failing, if you are foolish enough to keep looking. One of them, Seonade the widow, said the name out loud at last, at the peat fire, with the door barred. The Fideil. And she said what her grandmother had said with it. It is a hungry thing, but it is never in a hurry. It winds what it takes into the weed at the bottom, and it holds it there, and it is patient, because the loch is small, and the world walks past it every day. Ewan McCrae was 26 that summer. A Kerrisdale man, broad in the shoulder, the strongest swimmer between Gairloch and Torridon. Urquhart's manuscript says he was to be married at Michaelmas. It says the girl he was to marry had a young brother, and that in the last week of July, the brother's dog went into the loch after a duck and did not come out. And the brother went in after the dog. He got out, others were near, and there was rope, and he got out. But Ewan stood on that shore while it happened. He saw the water lie flat and easy while a child screamed in the middle of it. And something in Ewan finished deciding. He went at grey dawn on the 2nd of August. He told no one, which is why what we know comes from 2 men cutting peats on the slope above, who saw the whole of it and were not close enough to matter. They saw Ewan strip at the shore with a black knife in his fist, a scion that had been his father's, and they saw him wade in without stopping. They said the loch changed while he waded, not waves. The water thickened, one of them said, like broth going cold. They said that all around the swimming man, the surface was suddenly full of hair. yards of it spreading out from nowhere, green and brown and moving, and across the water came a sound that neither man would fully describe. The younger one said only that it was like a voice, and like weed dragged over stones, and like both at once, and that it sounded glad. Ewan went under 4 times. The peat cutters could see the knife rise and fall between. The 4th time the water closed over him, the loch heaved up in a mound, the way a pot lifts before it spills. Then it fell flat, and everything stopped. The hair on the surface, all those spreading yards of it, went slack in one moment, like a net cut free. It drifted apart. It sank. They found Ewan the next morning at the shore edge, in water not 2 feet deep, so near that one hand was touching the rushes. He was wound in weed from ankle to throat, and Urquhart records this plainly, as the men who lifted him told it. The weed was not tangled about him. It was plaited, neat, even rows, and both of Ewan's fists were full of long green hair, torn away at the root, gripped so hard that they buried it with him rather than force his hands open. The minister entered his death in the parish record and wrote one word beside it: drowned. But the township said what Seonai had said over the body, and it has been said in Gairloch for 200 years since, first in the Gaelic and then in the English. A whole story held in one hard little sentence. Ewan killed the Fideil, and it killed Ewan. They believed he ended her. Perhaps he did. The loch was quiet afterward, but no boat has floated on it since, and no line has gone into it, and the mothers of the townships did not care what Ewan ended. For 3 generations, children in Kerrysdale were thrashed for going near that shore. The old people say a mother would stand at the gate at dusk and count her children home by name, and she would not go in until every name had answered. Some of the old ones do it still. The water is small and dark and patient, and it holds what it holds. If you walk the Drove Road in summer, you will pass that loch and think nothing of it. But look once at the surface before you go. If the weed is drifting against the wind, keep walking. Do not swim. Do not send the dog. And remember Ewan, who was stronger than you and who is down there yet. Whatever the water takes from you, no matter how dearly you love it, do not go in after it.